What's up, you guys? So today is actually kind of a big day, and that is because we're turning back onto a series that we started the end of last year, and we had a couple things pop up and didn't really get to dive fully into it. But here we're back on our NATT conversion series. So this video is not actually going to be included in the actual series or playlist itself. And that's because I don't really say everyone has to do this, but I do recommend it to a certain degree. Some NAs have bad valves and they're just not prone to holding up over time. Now, when you're running a turbo setup, you're going to have much hotter exhaust because you're going to be pumping out a lot more exhaust. So with that being said, your exhaust valves are a little weaker on an NA versus the inconel material on the twin turbos. So we actually just had us a set of twin turbo heads over here, rebuilt, cut, and cleaned, also resurfaced, and they're ready to go on the block. So we did go ahead and paint up this side of the block. You can see it's a nice flat black because we have not done this crusty side. Sorry, it's probably pretty hard to see, but this video, we're going to show you guys how to remove these dowel pins so you can, clean everything up, mainly because they're 25 bucks a piece. Instead of buying 4 of them, I bought a tool to remove them. I've got all kinds of used stuff. I'll take them from that. So not only that, we're going to show you guys kind of how we clean up the head gasket surface on the deck. And obviously we don't have to on the heads because they've been resurfaced. But pretty much just how to torque everything down, torque sequences, and then some recommendations, or at least bring some awareness to the short bolts in the block so you don't mix and match them and strip everything out. So yeah, you can probably tell we've cleaned up this deck surface here. Spent some time out here with a razor blade and a wire brush, but we left a little bit right here so we could show you guys kind of how we do that after we pull this. Hopefully this video can answer a couple questions for some of you guys if you do say want to replace your heads, that you're not as intimidated by it. Let's dive into it. So if this doesn't pertain to you, stay tuned for next video where we resume pretty much where we tore everything down before we realized we had to pull the heads and stuff. There's still a lot of good information in this video. So here's the dowel pin puller set that I bought. I bought the metric one and I bought it used off Amazon to save like 40 bucks or something. These things are like 200 bucks for the full kit, or over 200 bucks. But we just need it for this 10 mil right here. Gonna put our 10 mil piece on and put this collar over top of it. And basically, this piece right here has a thread in the back of it that we're gonna use a rod to thread into it, and as it pulls the end of this, it's going to squish down and grab that dowel pin. While we keep it nice and straight on the dowel pin, I'm going to thread this rod in. Basically, we're going to thread it until it bites on that dowel pin. So we're going to get an adjustable wrench and hold it while you tighten it down to pull that collar over top of that bit. I'm going to put this collar over top, washer, and a nut. And as you tighten this nut, it's going to pull that dowel pin out of the block because it's going to pull that threaded first collar and use this collar to pull it out. Hope that makes sense to you guys. And just like that, we've managed to pull our dowel pin. So again, I recommend, at least if you're going to do this more than once, you can buy this tool. If not, buy it and ship it back to Amazon like whoever did this did, and then save the next guy some money. And you obviously don't really spend anything but maybe a usage fee. And the reason you must have these dowel pins is these actually align the heads in the block perfectly to get that perfect alignment for the combustion chamber and all your oil and coolant galleries. So when it comes to cleaning off like the surface here, I've always used a razor blade. People always say not to because you can scratch the surface. I don't see how you do that if you use it correctly and you use it flat. You don't hit your corners and any of the holes. And like that, you just kind of shave off that old gasket. So it's literally what I've done through all this. You can always kind of feel the flatter side of the razor when you go to use it, so you can find which side to use it. And we're going to clean off all that old graphite material from the surface and get it nice and clean. So I do like to do this on the stand. I don't really see how people do it like in car, because I am terrified to get anything in any of these passages, the cylinders, any of that. Like, I want it to be as clean as possible So I try to tilt the engine so as I cut everything off, it falls onto the ground and it doesn't fall down in. So then I can flick it back another notch where it's pointed downwards, and I can spray it all with brake cleaner and rinse it for the final straw. And then honestly, what I like to do after the fact is take a brass wire brush and run over the surface to get any residual that you may not be able to get with a razor. Use a brass brush because this is an iron block. You don't want to use a steel brush because it's the same material and you'll eat into the surface. If you use a brass one, you won't do anything to the surface and you'll get it cleaner. This is a very time-consuming process, so we'll be back when it's time to put the head gaskets on. Again, brass brush. Start at the top and just kind of wash it down. Make sure to get your oil gallery plugs like these right here. Make sure that there's no debris in them, and your drain down here in the corners. Just kind of dry up the surface of all that brake cleaner. And we'll also wipe out the cylinders here. Now we're gonna get a rag, like a nice clean new rag. We're gonna kind of come back with some brake cleaner on it and just wipe everything off for a final time since all that stuff just leaked out. Till it's clean. This is going to be the part number for your normal head bolts that you'll have 14 of, and this is going to be your part number for the short bolts. You can see right here the difference between them. You really don't want to get these mixed up because you can pull the threads out using this and one of these, or you can snap the bolt putting this in this one. We also went ahead and reused some washers because there's really no point in getting new ones. These head bolts are already expensive enough. Before we install anything though, we're actually going to clean these dowel pins up with a wire brush. We're just going to use a brass brush to kind of clean up all the corrosion off of them. And so that way we can get a good seat between the two. That little bit of work just took that edge off. Now it's about good as new. We're just going to grab a mallet and this dowel pin. I guess we'll try to put it back in the same way it came out. Tap it back into place. Now that we just got our second one in over here installed, it's time for us to move on to the head gasket. So there's something I like to do with the head gasket to kind of help give it a little bit more security when you put it on there to seal it up. I like to use the copper spray high temp sealant gasket, whatever, and I just coat both the head gaskets before I put them on. Give it that little bit of just extra stickiness and tackiness to fill those imperfections and just help it maintain and guarantee that seal. We actually had a broken ratchet strap that I forgot about, so we didn't actually have to think too hard about that one. Shake the can up real good. I guess maybe it's probably better if it's warmer. We should probably read the instructions. Doesn't say anything about temp. Yeah, spray's fine, it'll be alright. We just basically got to let it dry. So a lot of people put it on wet. Directions says to let it tack up, dry before use. So we'll just read the instructions for the best results. Coat it up. Oh, come on. I'm gonna be ticked if I got this whole can and it does not work. Basically just here to turn it copper. It's coming up again. Well, this is bogus. Of course, the can really quits working now. So now I'm at the mercy of going to buy another one. $10 down the drain. And out of nowhere, the can decided to work. And we've got both sides coated. Now when we go and touch it with the back of our hand, nothing comes off on our hand, but we can feel it stick. So we know it's tacky and it's ready to install. Now for the fun part. Guide it with your dowel pins and lay it in place. I forgot to completely say, when we was rinsing everything out here, we actually rinsed each of the head bolt holes, so that way there should be no debris in there. That is something you want to be wary of because you don't want it to bottom out and actually have a, bolt hole full of something, because you can't compress liquid or even grease at that matter, and it'll push and crack your block if you tighten it all the way. A little precautionary, we're going to go ahead and thread bolts into each of these holes hand tight to make sure they all go down. Probably a good thing to do before you get everything clean for your final run. This is kind of visual representation of how to tell which bolt holes are which. The threads sit right on top here, and right here, like, the threads completely stick out. So here, when the threads completely stick out, when you just touch the bolt in, that's going to be a short bolt hole. The ones that go down a little bit, that'll be a longer bolt. We did kind of rotate the stand where the cylinder is more in the upright position rather than being flipped over on the edge, so that way we can drop it straight down on. I guess it's probably better to go down low, is it? Get them 2 dowel pins lined up. Pretty much on. Probably should have cleaned up the head side where those dowel pins sit. Kind of seat it down. We're going to do a little drop of oil on the threads. Just a little bit so it spreads throughout as we tighten it down. And we're also going to take a little dab here. We're going to coat just the bottom of our washer. Kind of like you would an ARP hardware. We just want to make sure everything's lubricated and nice and not like gritty and, you know what I'm saying. And we'll just bring it over here and plop it in the cylinder or bolt hole, whatever. Funny enough, over here I go to crack open my factory service manual and I got a bookmark over here. Looks like I've been here before. So right here's the torque sequence for tightening each of your bolts down. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But we're actually doing the right cylinder head because you technically look at this as you're sitting in the car. So you see, here's our VTC and that, and here's the front. VTC, front. So that's going to pertain to our passenger side head. So what we're going to do here to tighten them all down, you got to tighten them all down to 29 foot-pounds, and then you tighten them all down to 90 foot-pounds. Then you go back, loosen all your bolts, and then you tighten them back down 33 or 25 to 33 foot-pounds, and then to the full 90 foot-pounds. And then there's a little spec here if you have an angle wrench available. If you look on this diagram, the red bolt, or the red dot, is actually your short bolt. So your driver's side cylinder head, the one in the rear underneath your intake cam, the closest to your VTC, is the short bolt. For your passenger cylinder head, the very front under your VTC or intake cam is actually your short bolt. The more you know. So a quick clarification, I said that the passenger side short bolt actually went under the VTC cam gear, the intake cam gear. Well, I was wrong. It actually goes underneath the front of the exhaust cam gear. I just wanted to correct that before anyone, potentially makes a big mistake on my behalf. So you always definitely want to check as you thread it down. Check your washer beneath. You'll know if it's tight. If it's loose, it'll be pretty evident. But it's always best to check before you put your head on, so you actually get that visual representation. So now we're going to tighten this down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Basically, we're going to hand tighten them down, and then we're going to come back and kind of start our torque sequence here, with that low, like 30 foot-pounds. But it is actually a 10 mil Allen key to tighten your head bolts. And I actually prefer these style than those big 1/2-inch drives. 3/8 adapter socket actually does well and holds up to the torque, at least in my full experience in the multiple times I've done this. Slow and steady wins the race. Last but not least, now it's finally about time we get to start the torque sequence. Grab a 1/2-inch drive torque wrench, definitely recommend that. And I also recommend to just go back and make sure all your bolts are hand tight. Now we're going to start our sequence at 29 foot-pounds. Not a lot of pressure whatsoever. Here, after our final one, we bump it up to 90 foot-pounds for a final torque. Here comes the first big one. And we'll follow the sequence. I'm not doing the double click because it's not our final torque result, since we have to loosen it and come back. Bam! All to 90 foot-pounds. Now we got to go back in backwards order and loosen these all back up. Yeah, I know, fun, right? So I guess we'll be back. After we loosen these up and get them all torqued back down. Sorry, but it's probably better that way. Now we've got all of our torque checked, as in once we got it all tightened down to the final 90, we went back, hit it all one more time to make sure that it was fully snug. Well, our head is on and secure now. So I think instead of us rushing to put this side on, I'm not sure yet, but we're gonna look for a good set of cams and whatnot, some good lifters. We're gonna try to get all this stuff treated and ready to fully be put back together to finish at least. Because obviously I want to get this video out today for you guys, so I'm not trying to rush this process, but I kind of want to at least inform you, let you know what's going on, because if you did tear yours down to this point, it does kind of help to get a little bit of guidance to put it back together, because it can be pretty intimidating and nerve-wracking. Another big thing, make sure you got a good torque wrench. Don't use a super cheap one if you want reliable and consistent results. Also, don't loosen with your torque wrench if you can help it. Use a separate breaker bar to break everything loose. So now we're taking some oil in a syringe and we're lubing up the top of each of these valve stems and the keepers just to make sure everything is lubricated properly. And we also went ahead and oiled kind of down on the edges, trying to get to the springs and whatnot. Just want to make sure that there's no metal on metal when we go putting everything back together. We're actually soaking some lifters over here, and we actually threw some extra ones in because we want to make sure that they actually work and there's some sponge to them. Some of them are like rock hard and there's no movement, so I want to make sure we get the best 12 per side format that we can. It does help if you actually squeeze the plunger and bleed all those air bubbles out. You can see air bubbles coming out right here. Basically what we're doing just to get some oil loaded up in here to prevent like a dry start, even though this isn't going to be dry by any means. And you keep pumping until all of that. And to bleed your lifters, I just like to sit it upside down here in the oil, and I pump that until all the air bubbles quit coming out, just like it did there. Now we've bled our lifter and we can install it. Now that we got fresh lifters with a bunch of fresh oil, all bled, lifted, or I guess dropped into place, it's a good time we're going to remove each of our cam caps, and we're going to keep them all the same direction in the same place that we took them off, so we can put them back in the exact same place. With this being said, if you look at it from the exhaust side, it'll say E1, E2, E3, E4, and E5. So that helps you kind of know the direction of what they go or come off. A lot of times if you don't have a freshly cleaned head like this, you won't really be able to see these. So we're going to do this so we can clean these inside journals, or at least wipe them out, and then we can place and install a new cam. Last but not least, front cam cap. So before I do anything, I'm just going to wipe these caps out, or the journals, just to verify we have zero debris. And when we go to tighten everything down, that we can do so with our assembly lube and feel comfortable doing so. Before we go reinstall the cam, we're actually going to take this Permatex assembly grease or assembly lube. We're going to put this on each of the journals. And a little bit on top of each of the lifters. So we get a nice lubrication on first startup, and for like the first 15 seconds of starting or whatever. It's really better to use a brush here, or if you have a really clean finger with absolutely zero debris, Just go back, give everything a nice final coat so the full journal is coated and that there's no metal on metal whatsoever. Now we're going to grab our camshaft while it's nice and clean and free of any debris. Make sure you have the corresponding camshaft to the position that you're placing the camshaft. And drop it down into place. So there will be like a little bit of play on your cam. And this is your resting position where you're not pushing any valves. Basically after your left bank is snapped all the way over, that's kind of how you'll align your dowel pins up here on the front of your camshaft. So this one's going to be kind of to the side and this one will be too, so we know when we put the cam gear on we turn both of them up to the top dead center position. Now we're going to put a little bit of lube on the inside of our cam caps for the top. We're going to put these back 4 on, but not the first one just yet. We have a little bit more to do up here. Last but not least, technically last, not completely. When it comes to doing your front cam cap up here, you actually have a little bit of a discrepancy, and there is actually an oil passage here in both corners. So pretty much on this front part, you're going to want an RTV, just kind of smear it on to where you get a nice seal, but not enough that it's going to push out and block this passageway. As your oil's fed from your cam here in that journal, that some of it comes out the front, and then it drains here in the bottom. So you want to make sure that those are actually free of any RTV. After you smudge a little bit on these pieces, you get a good seal on the front part. And you don't want a whole lot. You can see it's literally just smeared on. And then we'll give it the whole little spiel with the rest. A little bit of assembly grease there. And install. Nope, that was close. Make sure that these are really clean and oil free first. It sucked to go this far to get it all to seal and then have an oily surface right there. And then it's not even stick. Now we're just going to hand tighten each of these cam cap bolts all the way down. And then we will begin the torque process. But obviously first we will consult the factory service manual to know what to do. And when it does come to actually tightening these down all the way, you start tightening them from the inside and you work your way outwards. So basically we start here, we'll jump over here, then the outsides. So you can slowly walk your cam down and evenly distribute the pressure of your valves onto your cam. Because if not, you could snap your cam from the tension on those valves. So we're just going to get everything walked down nice and smooth first before we come back and torque anything whatsoever. And once you get them all tightened down, you actually can come and peek from an angle on your front cam cap to make sure that you have no obstructions in those holes. We're all good. The torque spec to these cam caps are actually 6.7 to 8.7 foot-pounds. It does state to tighten them in 2 to 3 stages, so I would just do like snug, and then actually do like maybe a half turn or a quarter turn and then the full torque spec as long as you don't hit it by then. I usually only do that when it comes to removal. Well, let's grab us a torque wrench. Usually when it comes to this Nissan RTV that comes in the caulking tube, I like to let it sit 10 minutes before I actually torque it down. So we're gonna kind of go to the higher end of the torque range, and we're gonna put it right at 100 inch-pounds. Since this is the smaller wrench that I have, it should be easier to read. Instead of being the lowest setting on my foot-pound torque wrench, it'll be higher up on this inch-pound, so it should give us a more accurate reading. So basically 96 inch-pounds is 8 foot-pounds, so I just add that extra 4 to kind of make that, you know, like what, 8 1/4 foot-pounds, and you'll need a 10 mil obviously. So we're just going to start, do a little quarter turn, snug it up. But as we do the bolts, we're going to like spiral and keep the same side when switching to a new cam cap. Small wrench is not as sudden as a big torque wrench. Now that we're finishing up our torque range, we're actually going to go back and check it again. just pull your wrench until it clicks. When you check your torque, it's easy to, you know, up the torque when really you're just trying to make sure it's where you want it. Now we have our cam fully torqued on. We actually need to go do the same thing over here. So we're probably not going to show much of this, kind of like we might not show the whole process over here, mainly because it's very time consuming. And really my whole intention was to get this video edited and posted and out to you guys today. And while I don't want to rush working on this, I think it could be a good stopping point if I do decide to, you know, just wrap this all up, post the video, come back out here and finish up this driver's side head. So that way we can get us to the point next video where we resume on the engine, doing the oil pan, valve cover gaskets, pretty much all that, and then putting the turbo stuff back on. I just feel like that's a good way to go about this, but we'll see. So when I got everything back into place and I'd rotate this cam, it wasn't rotating how I liked. So I actually put the cam gear on it so I could rotate it and spin it over fully by hand, fully lube up that camshaft, and now I feel much better about it. Has that little bit of free play like it should. Fits nicely. While we're here, we'll just go ahead and do the exhaust cam as well. 3 rotations and get it back to its resting position. And it's as easy as that to install or replace the heads on your VG. I know that wasn't really the kind of style of video this was supposed to be, but I don't know. I guess it's just something for me to get out there until we can get the next video fully finished up, which we're actually going to be starting on that first thing in the morning. So we're getting back in the swing of things 100% this time. I'm not just saying it, we're actually pumping videos out every couple days now. We definitely have to so we can start making some progress here on Matt's car. Since this engine is about fully back together and we have very minimal things that we have to do, it's not going to be a whole lot for us to start just officially chipping things off the list and getting this car done. Another reason I really wanted to get this video out is because we're kind of changing things. I know I've said it before, like we're done buying a bunch of cars, this and this, we got to start completing stuff. Well, now that we chucked through and we got through working on Josh's car, then we got on, finished Derek's car, everything good, sorted there. He actually just came and picked that up. A few minor discrepancies that we're gonna go sort out, but now we've got Matt's car here, and we've really just got to pull the trigger and follow through completely. And while this is going to be like my intro to this year to, you know, getting stuff done, get to where we're being progressive every video and we can actually, you know, devote to one car or commit to one car to get one car to a certain point instead of just being here, there, and, you know, everywhere. I don't like it. It helps me be frazzled or encourages my frazzlement. And we're trying to put that to rest this year. So after we're done with this project, I've actually got a couple cool new things in the works, but like I said, I've already got videos recorded, but I'm not posting anything in that related sorts until we get this done. So at most we may have one video in the mix before we get this full NATT walkthrough guide series done. And that's really what I need to commit to getting done. So appreciate all of you guys, you know, hanging out there or hanging in there, waiting on me. And well, I've had this iffy past couple months. I think Sunday, this video comes out Thursday. Should be doing the wiring harness and doing a dash pull and replace on Matt's car. He has a little bit of dash peel he wants to take care of. So we're actually going to pull all that out so we can get access to that wiring harness bracket to make our lives a little bit easier. Show you guys how to do it all, because regardless of it being a part of an NATT swap process, I really want to show you guys, because I highly recommend it on any Z you have, unless it's like the most pristine, nicely taken care of car like Derek's, but not all of our Z's are like that. I'm pretty ecstatic with how all this turned out. A little bit of work to do over here, no big deal. For this video, we cleaned out this valley here, so we'll have a direct shot with our knock sensor when it comes time to putting all of our valve covers and getting the block fully equipped. We very well could be doing that next video. If that car, the wiring harness stuff isn't next video, stay tuned, because this will be. I could talk all day long. I can make this video longer and longer and longer. I don't want to do that, because realistically I've been saying the same thing that I've been saying for a couple months. Time for me to act on it. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe down below. Stay tuned for more content, especially for this NATT swap series, and we'll be here to provide. Thank you guys, and until next time, peace.